Welcome back, Holistic Soul Sisters. My name is Mandy Rose. I'm your holistic health coach, spiritual mentor, and astrologer. In today's video, we are going to talk all about Chiron retrograde. Most people have no idea who Chiron is, so we are going to dive into who is Chiron, what does he represent? We're going to talk about the zodiac sign that he is retrograding through, which is Aries. I'm going to give you guys all the details of when Chiron is retrograding, what we should be aware of, what we should expect and anticipate. And then lastly, I'm going to give you guys some do's and don'ts that you should be doing during this Chiron retrograde season. So let's start out with the basics. Chiron is retrograding from July 11th, 2021, all the way until December 15th of 2021. His retrograde season usually lasts 5 months. He is in the zodiac sign of Aries. He is making his home here in Aries for quite some time. He entered Aries back in 2019, and he's going to be chilling here until 2027. So the themes that come up during this Chiron retrograde season are actually going to be happening to us over and over again every year until about 2027. So these are lessons that don't just get taught in one season. They don't just happen right away. This is something that we are going to be working on collectively and personally for quite some time. He's not going to be retrograding very far in the zodiac sign of Aries. He's going to be starting on July 11th at 12 degrees of Aries, and then he is going to be retrograding back to only 5 degrees of Aries before he gets back on track on December 15th and continues on his path in the zodiac sign of Aries. Now I'm going to give you guys a quick refresher. If you're unfamiliar with retrogrades and what they mean, I'm going to break it down in a really simple term so you can understand astrologically how it's happening. Now, when we have a retrograde and the planet is going backwards in the sky, it's not actually going backwards. It's an optical illusion that we experience from our perspective here on planet Earth. So I explain it like this. Imagine you wake up every day and you see the sun, you know it's going to come up in the east and it's going to set in the west. And you can expect that every single day to happen. Same with the moon. Those are the only two celestial bodies that never retrograde. So I use them as an example because we can expect every day for them to come up and set in the same pattern. Well, the planets, they move around us in a very similar way. They typically travel from east to west from what we can see in the sky. So imagine waking up every day and you expect to see Saturn here, and then the next day Saturn's here and here. He doesn't move that fast, but I'm just giving you guys an example. And then all of a sudden you wake up one day and Saturn was here last night, but now he's here. And that's a little confusing. So that's what we call a retrograde. It's just the way that the Earth is tilted in perspective to that celestial body, and it looks to us on planet Earth like he is going backwards. So essentially, when Chiron goes retrograde, he has already traveled from 5 degrees of Aries to 12 degrees of Aries. And now on July 11th, from our perspective on Earth, it's going to look like he's trying to go back to 5 degrees of Aries from 12 degrees. And so he will be doing that over the course of the next 5 months. And then on December 15th, he will have to get back on track and move all the way for the third time, 1, retrograde 2, for the third time on December 15th, back over that track before he can move on forward into Aries and work on the next chapter of our healing when it comes to Aries themes. So I hope that made sense. I know it's a little confusing to explain, but I always like to bring it up at the beginning of retrograde videos just so you guys have a basic knowledge. So let's dive into who is Chiron, right? We know about all the planets, we know about the sun and the moon, we know about the zodiac signs, but we don't focus very much on Chiron. Back in mythology, he was known as the centaur who was able to heal everyone else, but he couldn't heal himself. And in astrology, we look at him as the wounded warrior. He is the shaman of the zodiac. He is meant to bring us deep, deep healing to parts of us that have been wounded for a really long time. And not just in this lifetime, but in our soul's evolution. And we can see this come up in themes. Some people have reoccurring struggles in their life in one specific area. So we can look at someone and go, wow, all their struggles come up in relationships. Or wow, this person's struggles always come up when they deal with money, or this person in their home, like maybe one person's home burned down like 3 times, right? So we all have these really deep soul core wounds, and Chiron is here to help us heal those wounds. Now, Chiron is not a planet. He's an asteroid, and it's located between the planet Jupiter and Saturn. Now, with Chiron being the wounded warrior and the shaman of the zodiac, his focus is to help us feel whole again, to help us put back our pieces, and to heal our wounds. So he helps us with all areas areas of our wellness, our mental health, our emotional health, our physical health, our spiritual health. So what zodiac sign is Chiron working on healing us? That is Aries. He has been in Aries since 2019, and he will be here until 2027. So it's really important for us to locate Aries in our birth chart because this is the part of our life that we are going to be focusing on for another 6 years. So for example, Aries for me falls in my 6th house of health and wellness. And since 2019, my health has been in shambles. It was like as soon as Chiron moved into this part of my chart, he said, I am going to break down your health to help you repair and rebuild it and bring up those wounds and those fears. And I learned in one of my past life regression sessions that in a past life, I had passed away very young due to health conditions. So this fear of my health and this fear of not being healthy is being healed right now with Chiron being in my 6th house of health and wellness all the way until 2027. And this helps me when I'm going through health crises or flares or I'm not feeling good. I know that this is just Chiron working to bring up those wounds and those fears and those triggers so I can release them and heal them and move on. So you're going to want to look to see where does Aries fall in your birth chart. Now, let's talk about the Aries themes that Chiron is going to work on for everyone. Now, with Chiron being here in Aries, he's going to help all of us heal the Aries themes in our life. So what does Aries represent? Well, Aries is the first sign of the astrological year, and it represents our age from 0 to 7. So this deals with inner child wounds. And I absolutely love this because you can see collectively through social media and therapy and the news and all these popular topics that inner child work has become mainstream. In the last few years, we've had many therapists like the holistic psychologists and other professionals on social media talking about healing our inner child. And this is a huge concept and it's so important. And Chiron is helping us when he's in Aries work on those issues. And third, Aries rules our masculine side, the part of us that is impulsive and bold and fearless, but also the part of us that tends to lead towards anger and aggression to deal with problems and our emotions. And this is something we can see coming up collectively. As Chiron moves his way through Aries, he's helping us heal our need to resort to anger and violence and masculine tendencies to make things happen for us. So I love that Chiron is going to be here for a while because these are big themes. Our inner child, our personal identity, and our tendency to lean towards anger and aggression. Those are just going to go away in one retrograde season. These are going to take years. So these are the themes that are coming up. Make sure you check out in your personal birth chart how this applies into that area of your life. So for me, like I said, it has to deal with health. So I am dealing with my inner child wounds related to my health when I was young, my health issues, dealing with my anger and aggression and how that's leading to a lot of my health issues. My liver is my weakest organ, and that relates to anger and aggression, and my masculine tendencies of overdoing and overgiving and not chilling and going with the flow, and how that leads to my health issues. And also my identity. I don't want to identify as someone who's always sick like I have since I was younger. So I'm here to help you guys see how it's playing out in your chart. If you can't make sense of this, that is what I do. So if you want to book a reading, I will put my email in the link below. Just shoot me an email and we can schedule a time to go over your personal birth chart and really dive into Chiron and your wounds and where you're healing, on top of also looking into your entire birth chart as a collective for 2021 and see what's coming up for you, what's in store, and help you better understand yourself and your soul's purpose. So moving on, let's talk about Chiron's retrograde. So we now just talked about everything that Chiron has to deal with, what themes he has and what he brings up when he's hanging out and dancing through Aries. But what happens when he goes retrograde? What happens when he goes backwards over the sky and asks us to revisit these themes? Retrogrades, they deal with reanalyzing, reassessing, redoing, re-understanding. So anything that we have to go back, go inwards, reflect within ourselves and heal. This is the time to recognize retrograde, recognize where the wounds are, why are they there, so that when he goes back direct in December, we can start working on them. This is the part where we go in and go, wow, I didn't realize that was a wound. Wow, I didn't realize that this was triggering me. When you have these wounds come up, Chiron is here to help restore our wholeness. When we acknowledge the wound, we allow the light to come in. So think of it this way. If you cut yourself and you have a really big gash on your arm, right? Now that cut, if you put a Band-Aid on it, it won't heal. It won't get any light. It won't get any air. But as soon as you take the Band-Aid off, release the mask, expose it to reality, the light can come in and start healing that wound. So wherever there are wounds in your life, allow the light to come in and flood and fill it so that we can restore our wholeness. That is Chiron's purpose. But first, we have to take the Band-Aid off and acknowledge that the wound is there. We cannot cover it up anymore. So during this retrograde, expect for deep-rooted wounds to come to the surface. Ones that you didn't even know were there. Things about your inner child, your past, things that happened to you when you were young that you blanked out, that you don't want to remember, and they start coming up. Maybe you go to a family reunion over the summer and you are triggered by something, or maybe you find out some information that happened to you when you were young, or maybe you start realizing in your current relationship that you are projecting your inner child. You are acting like a child with your partner because you are demanding and needing some form of validation or something you weren't given when you were a child. So expect in this retrograde the wound to surface, the aha moment of like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize this pain was there. And that can be very difficult. You can also have abandonment issues coming up. This goes back to Aries ruling the age of 0 to 7, where our attachment styles are formed and we can feel abandoned emotionally or neglected as a child. So if you feel these abandonment issues come up, this might be a time for you to really start exploring why. Or it might be even deeper, like a physical trauma that happened to you when you were younger. Maybe you had an accident when you were younger and you've never quite healed from it, or maybe there was trauma that was put upon you from, someone in your childhood, and this is coming up now, and now you have this fear where you don't feel safe in the world. So really explore whatever deep-rooted stuff is coming up for you guys and give yourself a lot of love and patience as these things come up, because you can start to feel during a Chiron retrograde extremely isolated and powerless. And this isn't meant to hurt us. This is sometimes meant to break us down so that we acknowledge it, that we look it straight in the face and say, I see you and I'm ready to heal and I'm ready to move on so the rest of my life can be abundant and blossoming and I can make it to my destiny without carrying this baggage around. So before we jump into the do's and don'ts, I just want to talk real quick how this is playing out collectively and in 2021 specifically. Like I mentioned, this has to deal with a lot of anger and aggression. Aries is masculine. It's ruled by Mars. And so we can see since 2019 that there is so much more violence and aggression in the media and with people around us and people having a short fuse and people trying to dominate and being assertive and forceful. This is going to be healed over the next couple of years. But like I said, it has to come to light first. And if this is happening in your life or happening in your social circle, work on stepping back. Protect yourself. And also we can notice with Mars being the ruler of Aries that Mars rules our passion and our sex drive. So we can be going through a lot of healing around our traumas and our wounds related to our drive, our go-getter energy. Maybe you feel very fearful. Like if I go and run for my dreams, I'm going to hurt somebody, or I'm not going to accomplish them, or I'm going to disappoint myself, or it's never going to happen to me. These wounds, these traumas, maybe when you were younger, you tried to open a business and it failed. And so now you have this fear of ambition and this fear of drive. So those wounds might come up to be healed. Or your sex drive. Maybe there's something that has to do with your sexuality where you've been really inhibited and there's a lot of wounds and a lot of trauma around it. So things like that are going to be healed as well collectively for everyone. Now remember, this Chiron retrograde is happening smack dab in retrograde season. So as this retrograde begins, we already have Pluto, Saturn, Jupiter, and Neptune retrograde. And as these planets all retrograde together in the sky, they are opening up a massive chapter of us to reflect. This isn't a time to run forward and create new things and jump into new ideas. This is the time to go inward and say, what pieces of me aren't stable? What pieces of me aren't healed? Where am I not seeing the truth? Every planet is a life coach to us in a different area of our life. And right now they are all working together to help us reflect and take time for ourselves before we jump into the new. We are also going to have Uranus going retrograde next month in August. So he's going to add to retrograde season. We're going to have Mercury jumping into the party in September with another retrograde. At that point, we are going to have 7 planets all retrograde at the exact same time. So you're going to want to make sure you catch up to all the YouTube videos that I've posted on the other planets retrograde and understand that during Chiron retrograde, when these wounds are coming up, there's a lot of other energy that's helping us reflect and heal. So this is really exciting, and we're going to make it to December. And then we're going to come out of that and we can implement all the things that we recognize and all the things that we learned. Make sure if you have your 2021 astrology journal that you're going in and writing in the journal prompts for that Chiron retrograde. It talks all about our triggers and our inner child wounds, and it's going to help you guys start reflecting where you should be focusing your attention, where you should be focusing your energy. Fill it out on July 11th when this retrograde begins. And then I want you to go back in December when the retrograde is ending and rewrite your answers, the new version of yourself, the more healed version of yourself. Read your answers from July and go, wow. That's how you're going to see how much you've grown. So if you haven't gotten your copy yet of the 2021 Retrograde Astrology Journal, I still have copies for sale, even though we are halfway through the year. It's half interactive journal where you can fill out the prompts, and there's the moon rituals and the do's and don'ts, but there's also a lot of information in here about Chiron, about the planets, about the zodiac signs. So you can even go back and learn a lot of what already happened in this astrological year and reflect what was going on in your life, and it'll help you make sense of your chaos. That's why I wrote it. So you can grab that in the description box below. So overall, for the 2021 Chiron retrograde season, the message is going to be thank you next. And I say that because we are going to recognize our wounds. We are going to work on healing them. Then we're going to wrap up and close up that chapter of our lives, heal those wounds, and move on. Say, thank you, universe. Thank you, Chiron, for helping me recognize the pieces I needed to heal, the wounds I needed to tend to, the nurturing I needed to give myself so that those wounds can close up and they're not as painful and they don't hurt as much, and I can move into that next chapter of my life. So now let's dive into the do's and the don'ts of this Chiron retrograde. So we're going to start with the do's. Number 1, you're going to want to do some self-care reflection. And that could be journaling every day. It could be going to therapy and signing up for a therapy session. It could be reading a book on inner child. It could be a class where you work on your anger management or your aggression or your masculine and working on your feminine energy. So you're going to want to do some sort of self-care therapy, whatever that looks like for you. Number 2, you're going to want to work on forgiving others. This is really important because in order to really heal the wound, you have to forgive the person that helped. You're going to have to forgive yourself if you've wounded yourself, and you're going to have to forgive others if they are the source of the wound. This is a huge piece of Chiron's healing, is the forgiveness aspect of saying, thank you for bringing this up for me. Thank you for bringing this obstacle into my life so that I can heal it and become stronger and move on. And either we can take that wound and turn it into a lesson that we can teach and help others with, or it can create a stronger version of ourselves so we have more faith and belief that we're able to accomplish any obstacle that comes into our way. And third, work on your masculine wounds. We all have them. This is a collective energy. We all have this tendency to jump into this masculine, do, get done, be angry, be aggressive, fight our way to the top, make it happen, make decisions, overwork, overplan, overdo. Because Chiron is in Aries, it's really bringing up this masculine energy. So work on tapping into your feminine, dance more, be more creative, go with the flow, and heal the parts of you that are wanting to resort to the masculine to get things done. And now for the don'ts. The number 1 don't for a Chiron retrograde is don't project your feelings onto other people. And this can sound like us saying, you make me feel. You made me feel upset. You make me feel insecure. You make me feel not beautiful. We need to stop that. Stop projecting your feelings onto other people. You are responsible for your feelings. You are responsible for how you allow other people to make you feel. It all happens up here in our mind, in our reality. So we can't be saying these statements like, you make me feel. gives away our power. Like I said, Chiron retrogrades typically make us feel powerless. So we need to take back our power. We make ourselves feel however we want to feel. Number 2, don't store your emotional pain. This is not a time to cover up our pain, to cover up our emotions, to cover up our wounds. We've been doing that far too long, and this retrograde is an opportunity, like I said, to let those wounds come to light in a safe space, whether it's in therapy or it's in our safety of our home or in our private journal. Don't repress the wounds anymore. It's time to heal them and move on and close that chapter of your life. And number 3, don't let anger get the best of you. This is the biggest thing. When emotions come up, we don't want to feel them, so we just feel anger instead. It's so much easier to feel anger than any other emotion. And so we need to work on that collectively and individually. So really, really work on not being angry, not projecting your anger, and just don't let it get the best of you. So that's all for the Chiron retrograde. I hope this gave you guys a lot of information and insight into who Chiron is. He's our wounded warrior. He's our shaman. He's our healer. He's here to help us be whole again, to get over the pain so that we can see the light and live a life of abundance and joy and happiness and manifestation. So we have to acknowledge the pain. We don't repress it. We don't shove it down. We face it head on. We thank the universe for giving us that obstacle. And then we close the chapter and say, thank you, next. So thank you guys for tuning in. I appreciate you guys. Please share my video with anyone you think could hear this message. Make sure you like and subscribe. I'll be posting a lot more astrology videos, but also holistic health, spirituality, and some lifestyle things to help you guys live a more holistic soul sister lifestyle. Make sure you go back and check out those retrograde videos with Saturn and Pluto and Neptune and all the other planets so that you can get a clearer picture of what's going on pretty much during retrograde season from June all the way until October. That is the peak of it. In the description box below, you can find the link to purchase a retrograde journal or book a birth chart reading with me. I also do relational astrology readings if you're interested in helping work on your relationship with another person. And make sure you follow me on Instagram at mandyrose.1111 for more content. Thank you guys so much. I'll catch you in the next video.